rust impregnated into those tyres.
Look at the lightning in the background, great shot of that. We gather Will Stevens has a fuel pressure problem in the Mana Marussia, may not get out on circuit. His teammate Roberto Neri has come out, I believe. Check that, yes, he is on circuit. Nico Rosberg has gone fastest initially, 1:39.3.
Well, if he's just allowing the car to overtake, he went certainly very wide there, given that set of tyres that could be of use later in this session. Hamilton opens his lap 10th quicker than Rosberg. It's fair to say that Rosberg had the advantage this morning through the pre-practice session, so it's always going to be interesting to see whether Hamilton's able to pull it back together.
Yeah, and at the moment Hamilton has the slight edge, and they have pushed quite hard on those tyres. They're certainly well under what we think the target time of 1:41 is, 1:41.0, so it's not as if they've taken it particularly easy, saving the tyres up for later, so we'll watch that. Bottas here, the Williams, hopefully everything okay. He certainly reported no back problems so far this weekend, but it was during qualifying where he needed that extra effort on the brakes. He also thinks the bumps had something to do with his back injury. Hitting the brakes over the bumps on that Melbourne circuit. Hopefully here that he won't have that problem.
Well, I find it quite interesting because you must spend good time preparing your seat for the year ahead, and you build that seat not only to give you good visibility, but to protect you. And in the case of the taller drivers like myself, we had very little space below the carbon of the seat and the floor. Someone like Valtteri is not the tallest driver, so I would have thought he would have space to have sort of protection and foam and what have you. You see Vettel there fighting the rear of the car on traction on the prime tyre, so certainly more grip to come once he gets those options on.
Had a couple of pole positions when driving for Red Bull here, but it was so evenly matched between himself and Kimi Räikkönen to be best of the rest behind Mercedes in the earlier session today. Good exit, just a slight flick of oversteer.
It's Hamilton on the left that's pulling over to allow him a clear run past. Doesn't want to be running on the racing line, giving Vettel a slipstream.
So how's this lap shaping up? It's looking pretty good. It's not going to be challenging the Mercedes. He's on the harder tyre, don't forget, whereas Mercedes have run the softer tyre of the two available this weekend. Over the line he goes third, so he is best of the rest. And actually that's a good lap because he's only 0.5 of a second slower than Rosberg, which indicates perhaps Rosberg and Hamilton didn't give their absolute maximum on their initial lap there, but they're getting a safe banker lap in.
Well, I guess what they could be doing is usually getting a banker in and getting a cycle on those tyres. They can be taking out the blankets, left to cool. That heat cycle then helps cure a little bit of compound, and when you're trying to make them last as long as possible at the start of the Grand Prix, then they've been getting some vital information on that.
So Raikkonen's first effort a little slower than Vettel, so 1:40.5, which should be enough. Roberto Neri's been off. We've seen him have a couple of spins this weekend. This time he just goes straight on and recovers quite quickly. He is the third Spaniard on the grid this weekend, with Alonso's return as well. But remember, this is Neri's first ever qualifying session in Formula One.
Yeah, well, with the 107% rule, he was just less than 0.5% inside that this morning, so they've both managed to get the cars inside and should be able to make it through the qualifying. But it's fair to say it looks quite difficult for them to learn that car, unsurprisingly. The first official test session for it.
Yeah, he's a second outside the 107% time at the moment, so 1:46.2 is the target. He's done a 1:47.2, so we'll watch that. Doesn't mean they won't be allowed to qualify if they're outside it, but they will have to ask for permission from the stewards. The stewards will then make that call. Jenson Button there, locked up there, and has to correct, loses a bit of time. May not lose too much, a couple of tenths maybe. Let's see what this means for Jenson Button. He's on the softer of the two compounds. He's only 17th with that lap. Alonso is a position ahead of him, a 10th of a second faster. Behind him at the moment, we've got Grosjean and, of course, the two Marussias. Stevens still not out on circuit, but McLaren still look in danger here of dropping out in this first part of qualifying. Look at this again, David.
You can see the car just bouncing around there on the bumps, locks that inside left, like you saw with the Toro Rosso, and then as you start to lose front potential, rear, you have to give the car a bit more space to try and get that wheel rotating again, and then you get on the dust and lose the rear.
Watching Romain Grosjean for Lotus. Had a restricted amount of running on Friday. They had a problem related to the power unit, but it didn't need an engine change as such. And he's on the harder compound tyres, so you would think they may want to come back out on a softer set of tyres. At the moment, he hasn't set a relevant time, so we'll see what this lap time is like as he comes into the final turn. Braking looks a little bit smoother, but he still runs a bit wide, doesn't he?
Yeah, they're having difficulty stopping these cars. Now, they are relatively low downforce in comparison to previous years, over 200 miles an hour with the DRS open into 15. That pops them in 10th right now. Reasonable gap over his teammate, couple of tenths there. So Maldonado right on the bubble there. Perez is in 15th currently, so we're losing 5 runners from this part of qualifying.
Yeah, it's very close in that little group though, between the likes of Sauber and Lotus at the moment. So we're waiting for Ricciardo to go a little bit quicker. Still seeing here whether Marcus Ericsson's going to be able to get into Q2. Fernando Alonso, straight back to the McLaren Honda pits. He's used a set of the softer tyres. Of course, the strategy for a team that's struggling to get out of Q1 is you're going to use your softer tyres, several sets of them in this session, because that's your only chance. Whereas the top teams save their sets of tyres. They're fast enough to get through with presumably just one run. And Hamilton and Rosberg have certainly done enough to do that. It is Hamilton fastest, Rosberg second, Vettel third, then the Williams of Bottas fourth. The other Ferrari of Raikkonen is currently fifth. Sainz has gone well again for Toro Rosso in sixth. Massa is currently seventh. We see Bottas being pushed down the pit lane. Hulkenberg is eighth. That's a good initial run from Hulkenberg, in fact, in the Force India. Nasser in the Sauber is ninth, and then Grosjean 10th. But I think from Hulkenberg back, you are definitely going to see them coming back out and seeing some big changes. And it may well be the likes of maybe Raikkonen will be safe, but Sainz, Massa as well. They may have to come back out to make sure that they're through into Q2.
That's a good effort there from Sainz in 6th place, and Verstappen, his teammate, down to 13, out on track, so trying to improve on his time. Interesting, all the hype was, of course, around Verstappen being the youngest ever driver in Formula 1. Carlos Sainz kind of snuck into Formula 1 from Renault 3.5, and really spoke up, fought his corner, said he believed he deserved a chance, and so far, the basis of 1.5 Grand Prix, he's certainly been slightly stronger, I think, than Max. He's been very close, but he certainly looked like he's able to use that bit more experience to get the best out of it.
He's got the advantage here of track knowledge, which probably is irrelevant at this level because they learn tracks so quickly. But what he has got is he's raced here in the past, David. He knows the conditions as well. You know, he's suffered this high heat and high humidity only in short races, because he raced and won in Formula BMW, very much a starter formula. But it just gives you that familiarity.
That's absolutely correct, Ben, and it's like any training program. If you're making the journey for the first time, you don't quite know what to expect. But once you've done the route, as difficult as it may be, mentally you're able to prepare for that. So yeah, psychologically, it's a small advantage, but this is a driving game, and you're able to point your machine to the apex, get on the power early, and see how dark it is in the background.
Really getting dark in the background. We're watching Max Verstappen and seeing whether he's going to be able to improve on that lap that he's already done. We've been talking about Carlos Sainz, who's gone 6th, but Max Verstappen definitely needs to find a little bit of pace. He's on the softer of the 2 compounds of tyre. It is a new set, I think. Once again, he's used one set. And let's see if this is going to be an improvement. I think it is. And Verstappen goes across the line and he goes 7th, and in fact beats Sainz's time. So he's taken another set of tyres to do it, which is always going to be a slight disadvantage if we go through qualifying, but he has matched and fractionally beaten his teammate Carlos Sainz. So Verstappen goes 7th, and that should be enough to go through to Q2. Fernando Alonso waiting, biding his moment to come back out. I expect we'll see him on the softer tyre. Still no laps done by Will Stevens, the British driver, racing for Marussia. Unfortunately, they've got a problem with that car. Roberto Meri has